at one end of your home.
You have to push got it.
Oh, got it.
All right. It is May 24th, 2022.
Ooh.
And okay, so this isn't a porch. It's kind of a new earth tunnel sort of a thing. But we're doing a hangout. We're in two different states right now. Jennifer, you're in Colorado. So not the state you live in. You're just hanging out over in Colorado for a while. And I'm still in Washington. I'm actually almost as right where I'm sitting this moment. You could get a little further west and northwest, but I'm about this close to being the furthest part of the United States west you can get.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, except for the seals swimming around in the kelp forests, they can get further west.
Right?
But it's green. There's no
Right?
white behind you, so that's good.
Say that again?
I said there's green behind you, no white, meaning snow, so that's good. And the
Yeah,
interesting
well, let's not
weather,
discuss the first part of my trip.
yeah, the interesting weather is happening all over the globe. So it's fooled
Yeah.
around with weather. That's why it's happening. It's not because Gaia wants it to occur.
Exactly. Yeah, I just watched what's her name? In Queensland,
Oh yeah,
the
um,
channel.
yeah, a blossom.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, that feels about right.
Yeah,
She was just talking about that
yeah. Hey Jeannie.
or channeling about that. Jeannie!
Oh, her audio's not connected yet. Yeah, and there's been lots of, well, very cold here, much colder than it normally is. Um,
Mhm.
well, it's colder. I mean, I used to live in bigger mountains than I'm here in right now, and it was never this cold this late. So, anyways, it's monkeying around with stuff.
Oh, there go the monkeys again,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Well, that's a whole
There's a
other.
lot of monkeying going
There's a
on.
lot of monkeying going on, and that's a whole other subject. I saw a
Uh,
tweet. I think it was a tweet, and someone said, if someone goes and gets a monkeypox, I'm just gonna laugh because you know
yeah. Oh,
apparently
the people
they're
humor.
so prepared that they already knew how to go into the kitchen and cook up all the anti-monkeypox thing. Anyways, you probably should stop on this thread because as soon as I
Right.
publish it, it'll get jettisoned. So monkeys and
It's
poxes are
interesting.
just fine.
Yeah.
As long as they're not hanging out together, they're just cool.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. So it's interesting. I'm sitting in a parking lot because, as you know, I'm traveling from my state to another state to get my kiddos and then go back to my state. Well, I happen to be sitting here because this is a good place to, join on the porch
Yeah.
or tunnel or. But it's interesting how many people. I I'm at a newer gas station in I don't know north of Denver, and there are so many Teslas. They built one of those power stations, right, with all the plug-ins.
Yeah.
There are so many people sitting in their vehicles, hanging out, plugged into.
Well, they're plugged in
I just
because
thought that was fascinating.
they can only go a few hundred miles and then they have to sit there for a couple hours to get charged again.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting because this is the second position in Colorado where I've just been hanging out for my own reasons and watching these people hanging out in their vehicles.
Yeah.
Some in their pajamas in the dark, early hours of the morning, and others throughout the afternoon and evening. I just thought it was an interesting observation. Like, hmm,
It gives efficiency or lack thereof a whole new meaning.
you would have to what? I don't know how long it takes to charge your car, but
A lot of them say 4 or 5 hours.
How many hours are you away from home?
Well, because you can only go a couple 100 miles.
Wow.
And one, if one did the math, they could see that's on purpose.
Right, right. It gives it another layer of being plugged in. I guess it's kind of my point. I see all these people doing whatever they're doing, but they're like all in, plugged in. I'm just like, I want to
Yeah,
just connect.
yeah, kind of. Well, what comes to mind is an image of Jean-Luc Picard, in the Borg episode,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Of course, he didn't choose to do that.
yeah.
He got,
Hmm.
but well, it's interesting too that these
Didn't have.
energies, the energies from without that are being beamed to the planet, and then the hyper accelerated stream of energies coming from within us, so coming out, being transmitted out from each of us, are so expansive now. That'll tell you, hi Jeannie.
Hello.
You're if
Oh
you
hi, we can hear you.
Yeah, if you want your video on, it's not on, just your nice picture. So that'll tell you how. Go ahead.
Now I was just over at my daughter's, and it's been one hell of a day. So I'm
Okay.
driving, so I don't know.
Oh no, don't. Okay, that's good. Picture's good. Hands on the wheel, on the steering wheel,
Okay.
and eyes straight ahead.
Okay.
So it's been. So with that, that'll tell you how much of a laser beam or kind of a shackled, plug in their head they already have. If with that number of energies, right, with that volume, that intensity, that scope, that breadth and depth,
Right.
that yeah, it just
And it's such a contrast because you know where I was roughly for 2 days, in a cabin in the woods by the river, listening to the birds, and it's the complete opposite.
right.
It is the complete opposite of what I choose to plug into. I mean, I never get videos of hummingbirds. I got a long video of a hummingbird. I'm like, oh, this feels good.
Right.
It
I
was
love
just the
hummies.
complete opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. It was a moment. I was like, oh, I'm having a moment. But, but it's such a stark contrast. Here I am parked on concrete next to people who are hanging out in their cars because they're charging them so they can get from one place to another. And my plugging in was nature. I got from the water, I got from the trees, I
Right.
got from the animals.
All that
And
flow.
it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And actually, to add to that kind of the way that's all in sync, what we're talking about is that is, so in that area where you were plugged into, right, there's intuition, there's innate abilities, there's a sensing of how things work and the rhythms of life and all that kind of stuff, and situational awareness, which is more of a human term, right, more of
Right.
it's actually a business term and stuff, but yet the people that are sitting next to you don't have any situational awareness, because if they did, they would do some research about these supposedly green energies, and they would see the scars on planet Earth that they're so purportedly bent on helping. And I don't know if they'd wake up or not, but so that's part of situational awareness, to
Yeah.
actually tune in and
Right.
follow your research to a way that you find out what's actually going on. And if you frequent this business or frequent this method of energy exchange or whatever else it is, what really goes into that, and what is the cost of that? Because like the
Right. Exactly.
the cost of that too is all about family. So think about all the extra time that they're spending away from their families because they're sitting next to you in a parking lot
And it's
charging their car.
and it's because they've chosen to they've chosen to envelope themselves in this false construct. Flat
Right.
out, think about it. Like, if you research what's going into what they're building, where they're getting the energy from, so forth and so on, you can follow that to your own conclusion. I have found my conclusion.
Right.
Um, Plus, they're investing extra time. Like you said, I mean, you're connected to your car for extra hours.
Right. And the
Each
other
their own, but I'm just saying, I'd rather not be connected to the vehicle.
right. Well, and the health for your own safety. I mean, what you're sitting on, driving on, and we'll skirt around the details simply because I prefer not to get, my channel is jettisoned because we go into too many details. But what you're driving on that's supposedly, good for Mama Gaia, it is not, because in order to make it, to put it under your seat, but now to put it, in your vehicle, and now you're sitting on it, right? I mean, that's a huge source of not things that are good for your well-being.
Toxicity?
Yeah.
Toxicity? We'll just call it toxicity.
Hey, Barbara, how's it going?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi there.
So we have a couple states, and I'm in a tunnel, not a porch, but there you go. And I'm not on the boot. It just looks like it. But anyway. Yeah, well, it's all about choices. Huh? That's true. I hadn't thought about that. It was raining, so
we could have been on my porch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll have to do that. I'll have to do that next time. Well, it's all about paying attention, and really feeling through to all the process, and maybe that's a good thing to play with in our own backyards. Are we doing that with all sorts of things ourselves? So I mean, we look over there and it's pretty obvious about all of the batteries that you're sitting on as you drive and do all this. But is there anything, it made me go think, well, is there something that I'm doing or in my flow or in a process that I'm either thinking about doing or just leaving doing, whatever else it is? Am I connecting all of my own? Am I doing the same thing? I'm thinking, gee, that's interesting that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I can think of a couple things, or at least one where I'm doing that, where I'm not minding my own energy on something, because I may do it very well in a lot of different areas, but there may be one particular one that I think the saying is like a blind spot or something, so it doesn't, I got radar on all the other ones, but there's maybe one that it doesn't. And so but I think flowing with that, just breathing into that, helps all of that, because we can feel every place that we're off or not connecting the dots or not getting all the data. We're saying, well, I wish I knew this, and we have all sorts of things ready to just give us all this data, and we can't see it. I mean, something as simple as, I'll give an example. So, I have my wonderful tent house, which I like very much. Kitty's sound asleep, and Doggies are here, and
Aw.
right now it's no leaking or anything. There's a little mold growing in it, but it's okay because it's been raining. But so I try to find something, and I've got little bags, all these little bags, and so I'm looking for something which I know I have, and I know I just saw it like yesterday when I was going to this trying to find something, but I wasn't looking for that, so I said, okay, I'll remember where it is, and then I'll know it. And do I remember where it is? No. But
No.
instead of focusing and taking a moment and going, I would love it if someone could tell me, is it in the 25th bag on the second row or is it someplace else? Right? And as soon as I do that, as soon as I stop, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's where it is. And I can walk. Actually, sometimes I have to walk out of the tent and go to the car, and it's in one of those bags. But we have all this capability. It's just whether or not we're ready to use it. But it's really helpful if you've got a lot of bags and you don't want to look through all of them. If you can just chill out for a minute and say, okay, give me a hint.
Right?
Kind of like finding the keys, trying to find your keys.
Yeah. Yeah. Although that was a little easier. This is, and of course my brain says, well, I don't need that right this minute. So I think I'll remember and I move on. And within 12 hours, I wish I knew where. Oh yeah, I just saw it. I have no idea where, but how much do we spend, all of our time doing that? And I wonder what, like the chicken or the egg, what gets us on that flow? Are we get on that flow so that it's a reminder to pay attention? Are we so scattered that we're not paying attention that it's a reminder to let things go? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it is for our benefit, even though we may not always appreciate it. Say what?
I said, I think it's just about just being present in the moment. Like,
right.
For example, when you're looking for something, Abraham says you can't find what's lost. And what you did about just letting go, and then your inner being kind of guided you to where it was, because, you knew that you needed it and you knew where it was. And,
right.
So when you trust and you're present in the moment and just, I don't know, I think it's about presence and about letting go and just going with the flow. And it's kind of an oxymoron in these days of busyness, having to go and do all these things. It seems kind of somewhat of an opposition, but at the same time, I personally have gotten to the place to where I can do that in the midst of the business, be present. And it for me, it involves breath, just stopping and taking deep breaths,
I love it.
kind of recentering and saying, okay, we got this.
Yeah. And actually I heard someone, yet to be listening say, well, yeah, but I don't always have the time for that. Well, there's the funny thing, because it's so much faster and so much quicker and keeps us out of whatever, kind of follow on thing that comes from, where are my, where is that granola bar I'm looking for?
Well, yeah, because you can create a major cluster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You create a major cluster of a chain of events of, like, it just goes on and on and on.
Hey, here comes some more monkey. They call it monkey mind. So you get stuck in that vortex,
right,
where it's lower thought process, rather than letting go, let be, let flow, let connect. I mean, it's like we skipped. It's like it's stuck in that first level of the lower level cyclone, and you just kind of get sucked into it, versus the real connection, the real flow, the higher mind, the higher heart, connected with higher self, however you want to put it. Yeah.
It's interesting when you said that this video came in where I'm in, a wide, not a tunnel, but a wide hallway. And when you were talking about, different monkeys come up in the mind to whatever, all these doors kept opening, right? So all these, hey, psst, psst, hey, look in here, go in this closet, and right. But when then you were talking about how the shift is when you're calm, there you could still see where there might be a door, but they were not open, and they were not in any way attracting my attention.
Beautiful. Lovely.
So it is.
So the monkeys are always there.
Yeah. Okay, you're on monkeys now. You're just causing trouble. You're just trying to get this channel booted. Cut that out.
Sorry. No. Okay, I'm bad. Oh, interesting. I'm so naughty.
So that's pretty cool. If we play with that a little bit more, it's like, okay, well, let me ask it this way. So how many times maybe in a day or a week do you guys play where you go into the flow to either look for something in particular, or to see what's going on there, or to see what is maybe a match for, or just coming into being to possibly be a match for something that you're playing with or working on or looking at?
How often? Wow.
I personally am just trying to juggle everything I've got going on with all the people and all the events and all of the obligations and all this stuff and things, and try and be present in the moment in the midst of all of it, thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I would have simplified my life a little bit more quickly then, because it is all, all up in my grill right now.
But that's what I mean. So in that example, so if you picture, let's have a pictorial here. So if you thought of the flow as kind of like this shape of the tent behind me, so you can pop your head in the tent, right, which is representing the flow, and for a moment be completely present, like you were talking about, Jeannie, and see the flow around, maybe pick one or two things in your life that are going on, and use that as guidance to say a no thank you for one thing going on, or say yes, because not only will that take you to what's going on, but there'll be an intersection, because in the flow, right, will be this person you might meet, or some tidbit or tip of information or something like that. So it's this, what you talked about is the exact same, about being present is the exact same thing, but this is more in a prescient way. So either while you're in the midst of something, you can do it right now, but also because you have available to you not only your flow, so your tunnel in the respect of everything in your life. So in your different communities, and however that might be, just a community of just yourself, maybe if there's a partner or whatever it is, or your local community. I don't mean community just as in town, city sort of thing. But see what I'm saying? It's like if you think of water and all of these components in your life, your personal sphere, are in there like fish, swimming around, all things going on, and you can see the different colors, you can feel the currents, right? And then you can also widen it so that it's the human collective, it's the all in sources multiverse collective. And so you can look in, you can go in, you can be in that flow and choose it before it arrives. even if it's almost right there. Instead of the before we started by talking about if something's lost or you can't find something, Jeannie, you said that's right. You just calm down and it comes to you. So think of it going the other way around. Well, if it works that way, then it's going to work in the other way, and it's going to work sideways, horizontally, vertically, right? All of that kind of stuff, because there's only one moment.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
I am going to take what you just described and I'm going to do it. I'm going to look in the tunnel in the flow and see all the colors
Yeah.
of the fish. I mean, it's interesting because you're asking how many times, and I'm like, I do it a lot, but it's brief. I don't stay there, which, the more you're there, the better things go for a reason.
Right.
But I visit that space a lot. I just can't come up with an example right now, but I love that, the analogy you gave. That's beautiful.
Well, you could go in with what comes to me when you were saying that is you could go in with it's a silly reference, but you could go in with a shopping list, right? I want to learn how to do X, or I want to learn how to quit doing Z, or I want to have more of this or less of that, right?
Right.
And so as you do that, so you look and you see.
Oh, I did have a moment like that.
Right? And you can see how that goes together. You can also have moments where you're just going to look in the pretty flow, and what do you notice? What catches your eye? What,
Right.
what would be completely tangential and just fun for flowing's sake, but that's,
Yeah, I actually, I was going to say, I kind of shared I don't know what you want to call it, a turning point, a choice point, where it was an explosion, but that was my energy. That was me putting strength behind my intentions of me saying, no more. That's enough. Things have got to change. You people need to step up around me. You beings, it's time. Step up. Take some of this off my plate. And once I shifted back into a healthier energy, emotional body, all my bodies, things just started happening. Interestingly, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was my answer, and things just started happening. And now half my stuff off my plate. I don't remember when that happened. What was that, like maybe 2 weeks ago? I don't know. It was a short period of time.
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago.
So
but you claimed it. So you have to claim it, own it, know it, and be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can't, there's no sitting in the Barca lounge and waiting for someone to give us a ride when they fix it all nice and, right?
Yep. I actually voiced it within a short period of linear hours. I voiced it. I said, things are going to have to change. People are going to need to step up. I can't have my day that's broken because I can't accomplish anything.
Right.
Like, and you can look at it linearly. But it wasn't just linear. It was, I can't take care of me. I can't maintain a connected flow because there's too many pieces of me here, there, and everywhere, right? But all I had to do was within me say no more. Change must happen now, and then I voiced it in a couple different ways with a couple different beings, and bam, I'm like, okay.
And the most important one that you voiced it with was you, and that you actually listened, and you, right? Yes. and you
but
got with the program.
Me.
What?
Right, but it wasn't just me and me right there, even though it was me and it was me talking to me.
Oh,
it wasn't just me. It was just all. I was like, this is all.
But
all
if you hadn't kept the energy, what I'm saying is if you hadn't kept the energy,
it wouldn't have changed.
Right.
Yep.
That's the claiming it and owning it part.
Right.
That's fascinating.
It really is fascinating now that I look at it in that way. And it was all about the flow that you just gave a pictorial of, Phoebe.
Yeah.
The looking around in the flow in the river and the fish and all the colors. That was wow.
All
That's
this
amazing.
information has always been available to us, but not in so easily accessible way, and not in
Right.
so easily a cohesive way. So what was the name of that movie? Was it Jupiter Ascending? Remember
Oh.
She was a maid, and then she was the queen.
yes, and she attracts the
Like
bees.
she was a maid.
Yeah.
I think so.
And in that early in the movie there's there's something going on where someone's getting chased by something else, but the person's in the vehicle, and they're picking up and reading all the cell phone streams, right? And so you're
Oh,
seeing,
that was Lucy.
oh, was
That
that
was
Lucy?
Lucy.
Okay.
She was like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's in the front. That's
Yeah,
right.
that
Okay.
was
So she's in
Lucy.
the front. Well, there was another scene from the other movie that'll come next, but she's in the front seat of this taxi cab or something. And she's looking out, and it's a crowded street scene and all this honk honk and all this kind of stuff. And you can see through her eyes all of the in a data stream, coming top to bottom on the screen. She's seeing all the data streams, in this case with specificity, from all the cell phones. And she takes her hand,
Right.
and she kind of moves, and so the energy would make them different colors. But for the movie, they wanted to make, so she kind of parts them until she isolates the data stream that she wants and touches it and can go into the conversation. So she can then locate the person she's looking for and where they are, in a linear way. Well, we can do all of that. And what I'm saying is we've been able to do that forever. It's just been pretty much only accessible to people who could really focus or really walk the talk or really, and nowadays it's so, what's the right word? It's so effortless that we stumble into it sometimes, even though we may have no idea what the field is, or that we can look at it, that we might see something like that, as if your hand reached something and you're like hearing a phone call, you're hearing you, which is a lot of times the way it shows up. You're hearing you do something, be something, communicating about something, but it hasn't happened yet because you've seen yourself in the flow, and you come back and go, I just had the strangest dream, or I just had the most interesting thought, and I was XYZ place, or I've already been here before, that kind of stuff. And I think that's accidentally on purpose to pull us in to say, hey, come play with me in these ways, meaning yourself or what's in your life, and it's happening. I don't know if I put it up yet, but it's happening cross species, cross realm very quickly now, and realm and dimension, and I guess species, if a tree and a human, those are different species. But animals and people and stuff, which is pretty fascinating too.
Oh wow. That is neat.
You know, lately, like the last several days, I mean, usually I have pretty good synchronicity with nature, with birds, with, you know, rabbits, whatever. And lately, when I've been driving, like, I mean, maybe a dozen times in the last several days, I've had birds like just fly right in front of my car. Like, what is going on? And you know, whenever it happens, I'm like, hello, you know, thanks for coming by and saying hi. But I heard something that was just kind of indicated that maybe that may have a message for me. And I don't know, I think that the message is you need to slow down. Because I haven't actually like gotten in a quiet place and let go and meditated for a few weeks now. So I think the little birdies are saying, hey, slow down. Just, you know, sit and be present. Don't
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Well, and that's another good thing. A note to self what is to be able to do that in all sorts of places. So you talked about the breath. Jennifer did too, where, so in a moment, right? So, because that handles a lot of our objections. I don't have time. Okay, well, you do have time to breathe because otherwise you're not going to get anything done. So take a nanosecond more and be 100% intentional for one breath. Okay, now get going, right? You know what I mean? But that kind of stuff, I mean, when I was a kid, it was either you're always wrong or this or the other thing. And so I started doing things my own way because, if I was going to be wrong, at least it'd be my way. And so, and part of that was, not doing meditation right or whatever it was. And so I had fun where I would, instead of having eyes closed and doing it right in the right position and yada, 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 I would have my eyes open and I'd sit on the porch or sit on the stoop and look at a leaf or look at the trees. And my eyes were wide open and I was doing it right in the moment. Now I can do it the other way now, but I love being able to do all of that where I'm fully present, all of me, the physical me, because that's that balance that is so exciting to me, where I'm marrying the physicality and the multidimensionality all at the same point. So I can choose to go be on the top of the mountain or, in a quiet room or whatever. But I can also just take a moment and I can do it in the grocery store. If I'm in the shop at, with the shopping cart there and I'm in line and it's going to take a while, I can be in that space. And I've had people, total strangers, come up to me and say, "You're so calm," or something like that. And it takes me a minute because wherever I am, I'm like, oh, But I think that's helpful too, because we use, how many times do we use that? Well, I'm busy or I don't have any time. But we're breathing all the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when you were talking about that, I experienced like you said, a nanosecond, in one breath, one conscious breath. I mean, if you think about it, it's a complete cycle. It's a complete connection out, back in, through, and back, all in one breath. And it's an intention. I'm trying to think what else I did that is reminding me of. It was something that was, grounding through nuts, through food. And for me, it was nuts, tree nuts, right? That brought me from I was like, almost, I mean, I hate to use a phrase like that, but sometimes I'm running energy so fast that I'm like a hummingbird, right? You know me that well, right, BB? So I ate nuts with the intention of connecting through those trees into the earth, and all of a sudden I'm not what is it called again? ADHD.
Right.
As far as my brain will just, but it brings me back. It connects me, and that's what that reminds me of. That one breath, a handful of nuts, Doesn't take long, surprisingly.
Well, that's a pretty
But things
cool
are more
thing to do.
instantaneous. Those are examples of, yeah,
Pretty cool thing.
yeah. I thought that was pretty neat. I don't know. That was just I told me to do it, and in that same moment, I'm setting my intention to do it. Next thing you know, I'm eating a couple nuts, and I'm like, okay, this is good. Yeah, that's what that reminded me of. It's the instantaneous. It's the we have access right now to
Yeah.
everything. That's
Yeah.
just a little example of embodying that intention.
Right. And we're the ones, I mean, if you know, if we're having a conversation like that and things come up, and it wouldn't have occurred to me to ground through the nuts, but I think that's a pretty darn cool thing, you know, because I could eat a macadamia nut and ground through that. I mean, you can right? You can say, hey, I ground through
Yeah,
5 different kinds of trees. They don't grow in here. That's okay. I don't need them to grow around here. I'm grounding through them.
exactly.
Or
So that's
carrots or
that's
water
yeah,
or whatever.
that's ways that it comes to us. But the other way is that
Ah,
we can just tune into it. You know, I mean, we think about
yeah.
the fantastical stuff. So the New Earth, well, it's going to bring in more. They're already here, but we'll see more. We'll have more come into our experience. More animals, different colors, different whole ways and to play and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's where the imagination is, because that's the linear version of the pre-matter template. Rather than going, well, let's fix X, Y, and Z, which isn't something that's going to work because it can't be fixed. It's born of a completely different energy, a completely different model, and a completely different game of conscious existence in an ultra polarized, ultra density dualistic stream. And this is a whole new stream. So that's, you notice if you have some days where it seems there's a lot of flow, colors are brighter, it's just easier, you know, like the air smells fresh and all that kind of stuff, especially now. And your, what's the right way? Your experience of it or walking through is, it's palpable, it's different, right? And then you seem to get
Right.
more in a day that's, it's denser, like you're slogging through. I mean, yes, you're tired because you're working, whatever it is, you're slogging through stuff, but you've diverged into more fully one stream or the other of what is going on. One is coming down and unwinding and unbinding, and the other one is an expansive route. And you can hop in a new stream right from there.
I had an experience recently with a global company, and I went in for an appointment, and there was this receptionist had a mask, and I asked her about it. Sorry, I said the word.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And
diaper?
yeah, the diaper on the face. And she was saying it was for her son, and that was not required. And I was like, okay, that's good, because I have not ever done one, and I have no intention of it. And there was a form there that they wanted me to fill out and to enter the building, and it was about, have you been stabbed? Are you, symptoms and fever, and have you been around it? And I was like, I'm not comfortable filling this form out. I choose not to. And so she got somebody to come out and talk to me. And I said, well, I value my health freedom. And can you tell so-and-so that I won't be keeping the appointment today? I don't think that this is a good fit for me because, I choose to, I just said it's not a good fit for me. I value my health freedom, and I value my privacy, and
Yeah, it's none of your business.
Not fill that form out. So it just
Exactly.
yeah,
File that under Nunya.
right? And they looked at me like I had like an eye growing out of my nose or something. The look on the face was priceless. I was just like, wow, you guys really are absolutely not knowing and seeing what I am knowing and seeing because
Right.
it looked like the look on their face was like I just spoken Greek to them or something.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, it's very interesting the different spaces and places and people, um, levels of dimensionality and perspectives. It's quite an interesting dance to do these days
Mhm.
with others. And I did that, well, I don't want to get into it, but I find that when I am able to wake up and really get in my space first thing in the day and um be in my heart space, the flow is just it's beautiful and the synchronicities are there and there's joy and laughter and but when I a more linear intellectual um practical need to do this, need to do that, and try and go through the day in that regard, that's when I run into those things. And it's like, okay, that's a big flag to me that I'm trying to play the old game and I don't want to play the old game anymore. So it's
Right.
a clear sign that I need to, to just forget all that, forget all of the conditioning and all of the, following the traditional path and just let myself, as you were saying, flow in the stream and see the colored fishies. Because yeah, I have no interest in going the old way. It's very
Yeah,
flat
it's
and not interesting.
right. And it's interesting how obvious things are, right? The transparency, the energetics, the supportive. Um, so when I like more recently, I've noticed there's a small percentage that are going back to diapers and they're supposedly talking about that on the news. My husband stays in touch with that sometimes. So I'm like, okay, what do you mean they're doing mandatory diapers again in school? What? I'm so confused. Um, but it's a contrast again. Like I'm sitting in my car because I'm connecting and I can't drive and connect with my friends, right? With this community. But I'm watching everyone pulling up and charging their car and washing their windows and on their phones and just another contrast. Like it's pretty, and they think we're crazy, and we're like, no, you just don't see. You're not
Right.
looking. You're not
That's right.
digging. You're not looking. You didn't open your eyes. You closed your eyes. You put a diaper on your face,
Well, you know how
and you chose to exist that way and go with that storyline.
yeah, so it's actually more than that. So you go back to the fish vision that we all were sharing with, right?
Right.
So now there's fluidity, right? There's fluidity as in there's a flow. There's a flow, you could think of it as a stream of liquid, right? A stream of molecule energies, right?
Right.
Now in the one that is of the new vibrational frequency neighborhood, right? There's a much thinner, rarefied, more flowing viscosity, right? If you ever look, if you need motor oil for something, like one vehicle has a heavier weight, so meaning it's kind of thicker than another vehicle, right? So the old energy flow has a much denser, thicker, gludgier, sludgier viscosity. So it doesn't pour as well. It doesn't
More
move
sticky.
as well. Yes, and so some
Right.
a construct or a habit now that's been ingrained, right? It's more effort to get out of that than it is to just be pushed along in that flow because of the difference of the energy in the
Oh.
viscosity. So it also means, remember I said in the
Oh,
pictorial, it's more rarefied, right? So there is more light, there's more air, there's more transparency, right? If you think of a gloomy, thick day or thick fog, right? It's thick as you can't see but only a few feet. But when you have a lighter, moister day and it's just like a misty fog, you can see. It may change a little bit of the color system, but you see what I'm saying, right? So now go back in the flow of the old with
yeah.
the thicker viscosity. They simply cannot see. They're visible, what's the, when you read the weather, so many, there's a mile of visibility. Visibility today is 10 miles or something, right? And they're looking at it
Right.
like a quarter of an inch because the viscosity of the flow is such that it's not letting that in.
So it's hard. It's hard to get out. It's hard to let light in. So that
Right,
data doesn't even reach them.
right.
Kind of like it's. Oh,
Well,
wow.
they have to be, and at the same time, they're not small, they're not missing anything. They are connected because they're still up and around and animated, so they're connected. Um, and it's
Right.
a choosing whether or not, you know, they connect with all of themselves or they don't, or whether they're swayed or pushed in that flow by, people around them.
That is very intense. The
And
energy of what you described is
yeah, and
so
another
intense.
and that goes with that is that that's where when you really touch and come into connection with it, we're each sovereign. So to say, well, I'm gonna not do that because I want to be with my mother or something, it doesn't stand. You're your own unique ability. So you'll swim how you swim in the flow that you choose to flow in, and holding on to the shoreline to be with someone else, it's not your path. So you're in the wrong stream. You're in, does that make sense? And you'll
Yeah.
get, as if if you're in a, what are those things, a water slide or something, as if, so if you're in the wrong chute, as a metaphor, and you'll get popped out into that side chute to where your true frequency and alignment matches.
Right. And that's where the choosing.
Yep.
We're always choosing that you talked about for years.
Yep. Even if we think
Wow.
we're in indecision and not doing anything, we are choosing in that moment, and we're adhering to the vibrational flow.
And hence the reason, maybe, I mean, for a number of reasons, Jeannie, you were like, I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong space. It's not for me. You're like,
Yeah,
this does
yeah.
not feel good.
Right.
Ick.
And it was very, I mean, it was very evident from just looking at the place that it was very much in the system.
Right.
And so sometimes I think, when I was younger, I had this experience that I felt very liberated and very loved and very free. And in that moment, it was a very deep and energetic and moving experience. And I wanted to help. I wanted everyone to feel as amazing as I felt in that moment. And so I went forward in my life very intentionally sharing my my experience and the dots that I'd come to connect with others because I wanted to help them to see and be and to feel that amazing love and energy that I had experienced. And I know that it's not my job to to pull anybody else along, but I feel like it's a good thing to share that awesomeness, and those that can hear it will hear it, and those that can't won't. And at the same time, we are all one. We are all connected on an energetic level, and I feel like the more of us that allow ourselves to be the fullness of who we are, that love, that presence, that appreciation, that awesome energy, it's like the 100th primate effect. It's like the more that we do that, the more we do it, the more the chains fall off the rest of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
They will be loosed. Gone. So,
Well, it's, if think again, the water metaphor. So if they're at the shoreline of something, if you're enjoying your experience and sharing it just within you, so it infuses out and transmits out, whether you're actually verbally saying it to them, right? It's lapping at the shores of their stream and actually a little bit frothing and commingling with their stream. So there's some molecules, the spray is coming, and they can actually and they may say, oh wow, look at that, or it feels different, or like if you catch a raindrop or something salty, like snow, or right, and it's snowflakes on your tongue or something like that, where yeah, I mean, that's because part of what we all do, even if we don't realize it, is that we're transmitting these frequencies. That's why it's so important, if there are already beings that are in this thick viscosity, that's not what we're choosing to transmit, because then we're just adding to theirs and gumming up ours as well. And if you don't know much about cars, I mean, if you have too much, if you have the wrong oil, your car's not going to fire on all cylinders. It's not going to have all of the relays working so that everything is in a flow and it's moving smoothly. If it's too thick, if the viscosity is too thick on something.
When we talk about the water metaphor, about the flowing, and I feel like I've shared this in the past in some way with a post or something. There's this song, I think it's Nathan, I don't know, somebody in the Bunny Gang, Nathan Maxwell and the Bunny Gang. But the song goes something to the effect of, the river is flowing now very fast. Let go. Do not try to hold on to the shore, and essentially we are the ones that we've been waiting for. It's like, the time is now. Go with the flow. We're the ones. We're it. And don't try and hold on. Let go with the flow, because it's rushing. It's and if you do try and hold on to the shore when you've got a rushing torrent of water, you're going to drown, because it's going to go right over your head.
Right.
But if you let go and just go with the flow, you may be bobbing up and down and spitting here and there, but at least you're moving with it.
Right. Well, the other thing that so often, I mean, it really came in a minute just for me to highlight it, is that so someone might say, well, why is it when I either see someone who's doing some of the things we talked about, or if I kind of get sucked into something that they're doing, so negative or something, and I really don't feel good doing that. And it's only for a moment in it, but I don't understand why. And part of it is because it's all energetic. So what is happening in that moment is an anathema to the truth of who you are, the real flow. So the very thing that floats and enlivens you, And so what you don't feel good is because you're actually feeling the intangible, unseeable vibration, and it's grating on your energy. And then when that's why if you, as you talked about, Jennifer, that in that one moment, the in breath and the out breath, you step completely into the other flow, and it's like, wind beneath your wings, and you could leap off and do stuff. So that's a really good, Abraham talks about that a lot too, or used to in the very beginning. And that's a good way to let you know, right, which way you're flowing. So in the flow, if the water is murky, if things seem to be too many things keep dovetailing to not the way you want, then, do that just momentary in breath, out breath, and look in the, look underneath the water, and can you see what coral colors can you see now? What fish can you see? What's catching your eye in that direction? And the biggest thing is we don't trust our ability to do that, because I don't know, because someone didn't sell it to us, or we didn't, whoever's in charge that we think didn't do this, or it's different than the way. I don't know. It's mostly, the biggest way to describe it is trust. And once we trust, like, I don't know, you do something crazy and you just leap, and and you leave everything behind, and you let everything go all at once, and things are disoriented and unusual and different and whatever. But if you keep trusting, it just keeps getting better. It may be different, but it's better. And then you can come to an intersection and go, well, do I want to go back that way, or do I, even though this isn't my choice or preference at this moment, and I have no idea if I'm on the right road, do I want to go that way? And it's oftentimes incredibly clear. The place that you can't really see, you don't know where you're going, but that's because that's the trust road. That's the road that the trust is pointing you down.
And that is the key, my beautiful friend. I've leapt many times in my life. And I keep thinking, oh, I will just want to get it to a certain way so I don't have to do that anymore. And it's like, that is the way. That is the way. And there is no right road. It's the road in the moment. If you're in alignment with yourself and trusting yourself, it's going to be a beautiful road. And if you're not trusting yourself, it's not going to be such a fun road. So it's just in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, trust. That is so, yes, perfectly put. Yes.
And it takes
So
practice. And, for me anyways, I keep reminding myself, just trust. And so one of the tools I use is neutrality. How can I be, even if I haven't got a clue and I'm really not digging where I am right this second in this, split nanosecond, but I'm just going to trust. And that it's like someone opened the window and let light, color, oxygen into the thing. But it's interesting because think about all of the things in the linear and the false construct that's unwinding and unbinding. We haven't been taught to trust, we've been taught to obey. And we've been taught to follow the rules, which is very different than trust.
Yep.
And so it's like these walls that have propped us up. And so we don't, we kind of fall because we don't have that wall that's rigid. Yet we really get some peeve these days because of these rigid walls, right? And then when we go in the trust, we're like, but there's nothing to hold. Well, hang on, wait a minute. We can only have it so many different ways. We have to be reliable for ourselves and go with that. And
You know, and sometimes, no, go ahead.
no, it's fine. That's great.
So, well, and sometimes, I mean, in my experience, when I've done the, just leap and the net will appear, um, like you were saying, sometimes it's not, what we expected, or it's not necessarily comfortable, or, you know, it's not what, like, I'll use the language of my Christian days. It's not what our flesh would like to see happen. It's not comfortable. It's
Okay, that sounds
it's
awful.
familiar. It's
Really does sound.
you know, but if you trust your spirit, which is big genie, big busy,
Right.
that trusting will, you know, if you I'm just going to speak for me. When I made that my focus, when I trusted God, because that was the language in, that I was in some of the experiences I had, and I viewed things with appreciation. It's like I thanked God for the simple things, for the little blessings. And sometimes that was all I could focus on, because there was so much of a shit show going on in my life that I had to have that ability to focus. And sometimes it was just that I had breath to breathe that day, you know, and it got me through. And it's like, sometimes in my experience, things were just so bad in so many ways that I was ready to jump off. And one of the things that got me through was to think, there's so many that have it so much worse than I do. Even though I'm feel like I'm living hell on earth, it's not as bad as that. And so it's kind of like it, the driving of the train. You're going 100 miles in one direction, and you have to take a minute, slow it down, and stop it, and turn it around. And but once you do slow it down, and once you can have the ability to trust and the ability to get into that energy of appreciation, and you make it more of a practice, and I made it more of a practice, um the better it gets, the better it gets. Just like
Yeah.
when you don't do that, the worse it gets, the worse it gets. So and even today, it's like there's so much that I can see that breaks my heart, and I feel like as I was raised, I'm such a bad person if I don't, feel bad, because that's bad. And the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and I should feel bad, and I shouldn't be happy, and I shouldn't be laughing. But yes, I should be happy, and I should be laughing, because I'm not going to fix the hell in a handbasket situation for anybody, let alone myself, if I participate in the, oh, life's terrible, and
That's
oh
right.
God, what are we gonna do?
That's exactly right.
You got to just let yourself be, and let yourself laugh at it, and let yourself be inappropriate because you're laughing when other people are suffering. It's like, well, I'm sorry. And like today, the situation with the global company, it's like, you know, so I'm supposed to fill out this form because you guys are afraid that I might have been around somebody who is sick. I'm healthy. I'm good. I know I haven't been around anybody who's sick. Why should I have to fill out a piece of paper to make you guys feel better about your own fears? It's like, you're in the driver's seat for yourself. If you're afraid about this, I can't fix that. But, I can come in here and say I'm about, health, freedom, and my own privacy, and, do my thing. And so clearly our paths aren't going to align.
Right. It's
So,
an energetic.
right. So I'm going to go over here and be happy about what I'm doing. And you guys, I don't know what's going to happen to you guys, because I see some things coming down the road that might not be too comfortable for you if you continue in that way. But hey, your life, your choice, my life, my choice. And hopefully me getting happy and laughing hysterically about something will kind of lighten things up, and it won't be so bad for all of you who are in such fear.
Right.
So
Well, it transmits a different frequency, and since the frequency is the only base, regardless of what this table I can knock on or anything else may be telling me, we're that powerful. So we can be curmudgeon all day and get more curmudgeon on curmudgeon, or we can decide to say, I think I've finally had enough of that. And like for me, I think 7 years has been just about enough of that. And wherewithal or not, that's it. Because for me, it was a simple equation. This isn't a life. This isn't even an existence. And it's not only to my detriment, it's killing me on all sorts of levels. Well, okay. So how's that working for you? Again,
Yeah,
trust.
how do you know you're in the wrong place? The
Right.
wrong energetic.
Yeah. Trust in you.
It tells you on tell you on all levels.
Yeah. But are we listening?
Exactly.
And and that's how amazing we are. The moment we listen, even if just for a smidge, even if we go la la la, 10 seconds later, the moment we listen in the silence, that all of the orchestration that wants to come and build the symphonies and build the parks and playgrounds and Adventureland and whatever else it is that we could possibly imagine that makes our heart's desires sing, show up.
And a symphony takes more than one instrument to make the music. So your, whatever instrument you're playing, whatever instrument Jennifer and Barbara and me are playing,
Right.
it takes
Yes.
all of us to play it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And especially in this new flow, right? In the whole new, because this is just not two different streams that are kind of going, this is a whole new existence, which is just, we've now popped it open and it's opening up. And that's part of the newness of it. That's part of the, I don't know, different word for viscosity, but that's part of the effervescence in the molecules of the flow of this new thing, is that co-creation component. Because anything,
and it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
When you see that you're actually creating your own experience. I mean, I don't know a whole lot of people who would even say that they are creating their life, I mean, yeah, the go-getters that, I'm succeeding, I'm creating my life. But the ones that are things aren't going so well, they can't even mentally assent to the fact that they're creating their experience.
Right.
And that's for me, that was it was kind of like the moment that things really started to change for me, was the moment that I owned it. I said, I did this. Yes, I was a victim, but I participated. I had thoughts, I said things, took action, and it's my fault. And so I can, take responsibility and start to change it. And, the more I got into it, the more I, get up in the morning in my happy place and watch the synchronicities flow. It's like super exciting to see those things happen and to know that I'm doing it. It's like,
right.
It's extremely empowering.
Right. Yeah.
Very empowering.
And that's what's happening on the world stage and the inner cosmic stage for all of us at the same moment right this minute, whether we have a clue about it or not, which is pretty darn cool.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, how very fun. Thank you guys for coming. Since I didn't get to do the other one last month, this is the first New Earth hangout, tunnel, porch, stratosphere, whatever location works. Out and about in the great wide unknown. And yeah, I see more of this stuff. So each of these windows, the 4 windows here, in different ways, whether it's just a moment, maybe it's a hangout for 5 seconds at the grocery store, wherever you happen to be, how one streams and carries themselves and flows in that moment is creating those, I just talked about it a minute ago, those effervescent bubbles in the new stream. And we add that, we change, well, actually we enhance the new template of viscosity for the new flow.
Marvelous.
Yeah, very cool. I'm going to put this recording up, and I would love to ask each of you over the next, say, week to 10 days to kind of play with that question again that started a lot of this cool things that you guys brought forward about looking in the flow. So the way, Jennifer, you kind of re-said what I had said, where you pop your head in and what fish are swimming around, and how do you play with it? I think that would be very fun. It'll help each one of us remember to, intentionally do that. And it's also a cool way, because this is a stream within that stream. It could partially be in the old construct, but it's mostly flowing in the new. And so it's a way for us to navigate our own stream, because all of these places are eddies in the current that are touchstones. Either they empower us to flow forward, or they empower us to get stuck in that little marshy, greeny, gooky sort of place. And right,
Yeah,
I'll
gross.
pass.
Cool. All right, well, next month we'll do it, and we'll do more stuff in the middle time.
So what
Perfect.
what
Bye,
specifically
everybody.
was the question?
What? Say that again, Jeannie.
What specifically?
Oh, the
was
question. The
specifically?
question
'Cause
was.
for a while.
The question was, how often in a day or a week do you find yourself intentionally looking in the stream and using that to plan or facilitate, or to figure out, if you're making choices, or to inform you, to give you data to inform you, and then have that help with your flow. Does that make sense? Because all the answers, since it is
Good
all
question.
things and no things yet, it has all the answers for us. Because when we meet those things we see, they become customized for us and can be part of our choice to choose. So when we say, well, is this the right way or that the right way, right? When we pick one of those because we see it, because it's caught our attention, for that moment, it's the right way. Now, it may not take us all, quote unquote, all the way we wanted to go, but it moved us in a certain space, which opened up other things, which put us in the right space to pop in and go, hey, look at that fish, right? And go with that, where we couldn't see. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They aren't all
Yeah, I mean, when I hear you, when I hear you ask that question, it's kind of like, just noticing and going with the flow on a daily. I mean, it's like, and yes, I will write about it, but for me, it's pretty much, in and out all day long. It's like, well, when something shows up that is unpleasant, it's like, oh, what was I thinking to bring that one in,
And
Right.
because I'm having this contrasting experience, I know that I've created something else. So, but I like the idea of poking your head in, because, you know, I'll play with that because I can imagine everything that that I know that I've created, but I don't like spend much time looking at intentionally. So yeah, I will play with trying to actually imagine what I pretty well know is in there, and see if I can bring more of that in uh, on purpose.
Yeah, and steer around or say, "Oh, I'm going to grab this bubble and flow that way," even though so I can. It's a way of kind of canceling out or letting go of something else that you created, and you just now you swim. Maybe you just ask the whale that swims by, and you hang with them for a bit, and you go that way.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for playing. I love you, and we'll see you later.
Love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.